Now, wait a minute, Torsten. You mean to tell me that I'm paralyzed? You and I are both quads. We can drive race cars?
Well, yeah, because if you crash into a wall, you don't really feel it. So
I'm Paul Amadeus Lane, and welcome to the Ability Zone. Prepare for something amazing. I am so delighted to have you on our show today. We have an amazing guest that's going to be at Abilities Expo in Edison, New Jersey, coming up. So make sure you go to the website and register, and you're going to see some amazing exhibitors. But I want to introduce you to my guest right now. I am so delighted to have with me right now my next guest, Torsten Gross. What's going on, Torsten? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, my man. How are you?
Hey, I am delighted to have you on and so honored to be with you. Now, wait a minute, Torsten. You mean to tell me that I'm paralyzed? You and I are both quads. We can drive race cars?
Well, yeah, because if you crash into a wall, you don't really feel it. So, so I guess we have an advantage to that, on that side. And yeah, who needs feet when you got hands, right?
I love it. I love it. So, Torsten, how did you know this was something that you were able to do, my friend?
I didn't. So my wife got me a track day at Lime Rock Park after we had a weekend house, which is now our permanent house here in Connecticut, that is 7 miles away from Lime Rock, and which is one of the country's most strategic racetracks. And I'd been pulled over. I'm not going to admit that it was at that time 36 times in my life. I won't admit that, but that might be true. If it is true, then my wife would know that I've got a penchant for speed. And she saw that you can do a track day here with your own personal car that's already, your car, as long as it's not, I think they say something like, as long as it's not taller than it is long. So meaning it can't be like a minivan or something like that, but any sedan and most new SUVs now, because of their handling, can go on the track and do a track day. It's not racing, but a track day, and experience it. And the second I did that, I just saw my wallet shrinking, because I was like, I now need to do this. Yeah, I love it. And that's how I got into it. My wife, like all the things in marriage, don't you have to just blame it on your wife? Like, isn't that? Yeah. Okay.
Always. And here's like a trick that I've learned too. You got to make it their decision, and then if it's their decision,
yeah,
good to go.
Always. Please don't send me any letters. I was totally kidding about that. No nasty tweets. I'm totally kidding.
No, and Torsten, let's kind of backtrack a little bit now to you became a quadriplegic at a very young age, and
15.
Why don't you share that journey with us, and then kind of like where you kind of took yourself through a journey of what you wanted to do in life, and now you got this amazing thing going on. If you mind sharing that with us, please.
Yeah, not at all. So when I was 15, I dove into the ocean, broke my neck 36 pieces. Drowned. It was what they call clinically dead for 2.5 minutes. So I broke my C6 into 36 pieces, splinters. And I kind of see it fortunate that I was 15, because when you're younger, this is, solely my perspective, but I believe that when you're younger, you're going through so many life changes anyway, even walking. You're going from middle school to high school. You're going high school to college, your first job. Things are changing. You're moving to different places. You are conditioned as a human to change inside those life changes. When you're older, you're a little more conditioned, and you've got your routine. And so my routine never got screwed up. Well, it did for the time right after my accident, but that just becomes a factor of life versus my life completely changing. And so I kind of accepted it fairly easily and simply. Now, I was also 15, so I was at that age where if you told me to do something, the answer just clinically is no. But I learned to deal with my accident kind of moving forward. And I think the biggest thing that really motivated me is that a doctor had said to me, well, quads don't live alone. Quads always need aids. And at 15, I was like, well, that's not going to happen. But it still took me 9 years to put on my socks myself. It took so long. And then I decided one day, because I got into this program called Miami Ad School, where for my job, I would have to travel a lot. I locked my aide out of the apartment. And I had said, well, I'm going to do all my care myself. And she was like, no, you need to let me in. And I said, no, I'm going to figure this out. Even if I get real sick right now, I'm going to figure out my aid, doing it all myself. So I literally locked my aide out of my apartment for multiple days, just to figure out how to do, I'll just say, all my routines myself. And once that happened, that kind of unlocked everything, where I then got into the advertising world and have been in advertising and marketing ever since. Mm-hmm. So much so that before the pandemic, I was on a plane every day or maybe every other day, just traveling from client to client. So yeah, so my life spans kind of broad swath of living in Europe, living here, and figuring out who I was in a chair versus trying to figure out who I can be by being in a chair, right? So I didn't have really an identity. At 15, no one has an identity. You think you do, but you don't, right? So that's the long-winded way, sorry if that was too long, of explaining, diving accident at 15, and this year is my 30th anniversary.
No, I appreciate that, Torsten, because I just got my 31st anniversary in January. So happy break your neck anniversary. That's what everybody says. So, and just to hear, I was real young when I had my accident as well too. And you're right. We were kind of young and didn't know better. We just pivoted and we just went on and just lived life, to the fullest. And you've been able to do some incredible things, being independent, having a great career in advertisement. And when you look at just the community that we're a part of, and you see like younger ones who are coming up, who are in the same chairs that we are, or the same wheels we are, what type of, I don't want to say advice, but what type of life lessons can you share with them and their families as they're navigating kind of like this new normal for them?
It's a great question. I think the first thing I would say is society has painted a picture that is not true. Yeah. We are the little cripple kid that's being pushed by his mom behind in the back of a TV commercial. We are the people that can't do anything, that we are mentally and physically incapable of, dare I even say, being human or being equal. And I don't think that it was something that culture had set out to do, because I do believe a lot of advancements have happened over the past 20 or 30 years to make it so that we are way more equal. That's not to say that before 20 years ago we weren't, but I think now our lives are a whole lot more intertwined with able-bodied people, where we can be equal in so many more ways, that don't let the societal view dictate what you think your life is going to be, number one. And number two, nobody knows. And I say that strictly as, I'm a C6 quad. You put me next to another C6 quad, we're completely different, or we can be completely different. You put me next to somebody with spina bifida or multiple sclerosis, completely different. But from a societal perspective, if somebody says, oh, they're in a wheelchair, well, so is my friend. Okay, if I'm tan, I don't look at you and go, well, I know what it's like to be black. Like, That's not the way it works. Just because we're in a wheelchair doesn't mean that we're the same. Like we're all different slices, right? Which, by the way, I love. But people try and relate, and I love that, right? But then what they do is they make judgment calls on everyone. And so if you're a parent or you're a kid and go, well, I can't do this or I can't do that because someone told me that. I've lived my life on loving the word no.
Yeah.
You tell me the word no, and I will figure out how I'm going to do it faster and better than you. And so far, I've proven it, right? So those would be two things. And the last thing I would say is make up your mind before you know how you're going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, if I want to go race a car or do something like that, I guarantee you I can come up with 20 reasons why that's not going to work and why it shouldn't work. That's a problem, because if you're already thinking of the no before you think I actually want to do this, you're not going to try. And again, C6 quad, I knew that I wanted to be in marketing and be a strategist. I knew that I needed to do the care myself and to lock out your aide out of your apartment. Yeah. I'm not advising that to everybody on this, listening to this, but my point is the determination. I didn't know how I would do it. I failed a lot, like a lot. And what's funny about these conversations is you started off by saying, I've done a lot in my life. And I'm very fortunate that I can consider myself I'll just use the word successful. Mm-hmm. How you didn't introduce me, though, is let's talk about all the failures you've had to get to here, right? Let's talk about everything you did wrong to get to here. We never highlight that.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is if you're coming in from the outside and you're expecting everything to work, oh, careful, that it ain't going to work. But if you come into it going fail and fail fast, but learn from the failure, that's how you become better. So anyone who's in a chair or landed in a chair, know that the therapists are doing the best that they can, but they're giving you the treatment on average. What does the average person need? You're going to leave there. We all had our first wheelchair that we left the hospital with. That is a clunker. It doesn't fit really well. I think it took 3 iterations for me to get my Tylite to where I want to be. And now I just call Tylite. I'm like, make me another. But it took a long time to get there. And so if you feel like, don't expect a baby to walk at 6 months, right? Same thing right after if you're in a wheelchair. Don't expect to get to where you want to go in 6 months or a year. Give it time, right? But you will get there. And yeah, that would be. Apparently, I just gave them a lot of advice. Apparently, they have to.
Torsten, I love it, man, because as the old saying in the hood, game is sold and not told, and you have given us a lot to digest, and I'm glad you did, because I think that's something that we have to do. We have to let them know about the failures that came before the successes, because it gives them real life expectation. And hey, look at Torsten and Paul. They're successful now. I'm going to be like that. Well, it's a 99.9% chance that you won't be right up front, but after you fail and keep failing, you'll get to the point where you'll have some success. And I love the fact how you mentioned that we're not a monolith. How I'm a C6 quad, you're a C6 quad, and we're totally different and just our disabilities. And I'm so glad that you highlight that, Torsten, because that's real life, my friend. Really appreciate that. And now we look at what's bringing you to the Abilities Expo in New York. And, before we talk about some of the great things you're going to show off and some things you're going to talk about, what is your Abilities Expo experience before you, got involved with all the great things that you're doing?
It's interesting. If I look back at it, I need to put it in different phases. So Abilities Expo is a newbie, Abilities Expo as an intermediate, and now as an advanced. And here's what I mean by that. A newbie, so, I was I was newly in a wheelchair. I forgot what age. And you go there and your eyes are wide open. You're like, oh my God, there's all this stuff here. And it's overwhelming, right? In a good way, how much stuff there is. And you don't know really what's for me, what's not for me. Why is it, you're wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, right? You're just so excited about everything. Mid-tier, right? Intermediate, that's a couple years later, you go in there. And what's funny is I go, well, I know everything about being in a chair. I'm just coming because I have to come. And I kind of click off from the community a little bit. I'm like, I've got it all. I'm good. Now that I'd say advanced, meaning now, but 30 years in a chair, now I'm a little more open-eyed, and I go in and go, wow, a lot of things have changed. And that to me is an interesting way of how I've experienced Abilities Expo, where no matter what part of the journey that I was on, it's been there for me to show me different things that I didn't know was there, whether I was receptive to them or not. And I think that's what's kind of cool about it.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And, I have similar, experience with the Abilities Expo too. I remember when I, about a year after my injury, my caregiver, who was a good friend of mine, she was like, hey, I'm going to take you and your sister to this place. You can see it. I saw a commercial and blah, 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 blah. And then it parlays into this amazing kind of experience that we've all been a part of. And, when you're there and coming up, what are some of the things you're gonna highlight? You're gonna show off, to really just highlight just this magnificent thing that you're doing right now, and you're getting others involved too.
So I'll tell you first what Just Hands is, so that it puts a little more into context. So, to me, race car driving, or even just performance driving, track driving, even before you become a race car driver, is the only thing that makes you equal with able-bodied people. I've done a boatload of sports, but for skiing, we'll never be equal to able-bodied people or in their division. We'll never do, even though we can do marathons, we'll never do that against able-bodied people. We'll never do any sport really against able-bodied people. And that, I don't want to go as far as saying bothered me, but like I'd always wanted to compete against my friends and, able-bodied folks. And so, okay, fast forward now to finding track driving. And it was such a fundamental shift for me because on so many other reasons why it was great, forget about the need for speed, it made me equal to able-bodied people. And that is, what a cool moment to experience that. And so I thought, well, this is something I need to share with the world, because there are other people who have shared racing with me, sailing with me, like, Sail to Prevail or Shake a Leg or whatever. There are so many groups, Achilles, that got me doing hand cycling. I didn't find that for motorsports. And so I put together Just Hands, which is a program that is at this track right here, which is at Lime Rock, Connecticut. But we also have a car at Spa, which is the #1 Formula One track in the world, in Belgium. We have one at Nürburgring in Germany. We have multiple cars coming up here in the US this year where you can go do performance driving. It's not racing. It'll get you into racing, but it is performance driving on a track. Now, what we're doing at the Abilities Expo is we are bringing one of our cars, which is a 981 Porsche Cayman, 2.7 liter, which is, interestingly enough, has two sets of hand controls, left and right hand controls, because I wanted to make sure, because people drive in different styles, right? And so I wanted to make sure that no matter what side you drove on, you felt comfortable. But the car is completely suited for somebody in a chair to drive. And so people can take a look at that car. We can talk to them about signing up. There's certain criteria that you need to meet in order to do it. But I'd say a fair amount of people meet that criteria, and we'll be showing that at the expo. And I will also be giving a workshop. And that workshop is going to be talking about racing, but it is also going to be screening the trailer of my new show. And so we can talk about that at some point too. But that is what is happening at the Expo for Just Hands.
All right, let's talk about that new show, bro.
No time like the present, right? So I was really excited that I can't tell you the streaming service, but let's say it's a very large streaming service that is not Netflix, that you know, that followed me. The production company followed me around for about a year, and they documented my journey into racing. Everything from racing to crashing my car at 60 miles an hour sideways into a wall and breaking my femur, 3 ribs, and puncturing my lung. Made it all the way to the hospital for that. Yep. They really covered all of it, all of it. And that will be streaming in June, but I will be showing the trailer at the Abilities Expo. And the races that it covers is at Watkins Glen, Virginia International Raceway, Daytona, and the Formula One track, COTA, Circuit of the Americas in Texas.
And Torsten, that was the question I was going to ask you. Have you ever had an accident in your vehicle? And yes, you have. And what was that like, Torsten? Being in that type of collision.
Very anticlimactic. It bad outcome, breaking my leg, but a crash happens real fast. And I'll actually tell you the story. Interestingly enough, when I crashed, I remember crashing, but then the next thing I remember is being in the ambulance. But what's actually interesting about the whole thing is that I was awake through the whole process, and you never know how you act in one of those horrible situations. Are you a hair on fire type person? Are you, a panicker? Are you, do you shut down? Like, what kind of person are you in those moments? And because of the show, my car was wired up and I was very calm and very exact. And when the crew came to get me, we didn't know that my leg was broken. And so we put me into my ribs hurt for sure, and my lung hurt, but I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was just a little bit of compression of hitting that hard. But when they put me into the cab of the truck to bring me back to the paddock, I put both my hands down on my thighs. This hand stayed there. This hand went down. And I just looked at the guy. I'm like, we got to go. Like, we got to go. And it's scary because you also don't know how your body reacts as a quad. Do you get dysreflexic? Like, do you whatever? Luckily, I didn't get anything. They actually took me to the emergency room and they go, well, normally we would sedate you because this is the most painful bone in your body to break. And I just went, we're good. And so we heard it snap back. So did my wife. And she was standing next to me. And the funniest part about the whole thing, if there is a punchline, I'm 6'5". So when they put me into the ambulance, the door wouldn't close.
Oh.
When they transported me and they went, we're going to have to slide you up. And I'm like, we're good. I don't feel it. So they put a rod all the way down my femur. And look, that stuff really wasn't the big deal. The big deal to me was the ribs, because everything we do is on rotation on a plane of your upper body, leaning over to pick stuff up. It's all abs, right? Or all rotation of your ribs. Oh, that wasn't fun. But there are two types of race car drivers. There are ones that have crashed and ones that will. There's no middle ground, right? And now I'm one that has, and let's hope it doesn't happen again, but I'm sure it will, because when you do something that you push to the edge, then you are bound to go over it. I do want to say this though, Just Hands. So that's me and training for racing. Just Hands is performance driving. You are on a track, but what I was doing is not what somebody who goes through Just Hands would go through. It is incredibly safe. So I don't want anyone listening to this to think, well, let's go do what Torsten did. And if I break my femur, no big deal. I don't want anyone to think that. So I just want that to be reiterated.
Now, I appreciate that. And how has it changed your approach when you are doing competitive racing? Does it make you a little more cautious out there, or you don't mind sharing that with us?
No, I think, look, like any sport, you know, when a tennis player turns around to get the ball and then they turn back to the court, they're not walking around. They have a mental moment where they're clearing everything that just happened in the past, even the 5 shots that they missed, and each shot is their first shot. Mentally, that's how, you know, extreme athletes and very good athletes think. They say, well, that happened, and that doesn't mean that it's going to happen again. Well, I want to get it back out there right away. I mean, I'm so addicted to this. And every time I go around that corner, and that corner is right there. That's the corner that I hit. Every time I go around that corner, I'll look at it, but I still won't think about that crash. I think, you know, anyone's mentality, sports or not, you need to understand that things happen in life. And if you allow those moments to dictate your future, then you're not going to move forward, because the one thing that we can all guarantee is that things go wrong. It's a guarantee, right? Death, taxes, and stuff going wrong. And if you allow those things that go wrong to stop you, you will never move forward, period. So look, was it scary? Yeah, sure. But when you're in the middle of a race, or if you're on track, you are so hyper-focused that you're not really thinking about, well, could I crash? Mm-hmm. It's not something you want to think about.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you shared that. Hey, Torsten, I'm in California. I won't be at the New York show, but I'm sure a lot of my friends who are listening, who are out here, they want to find out more information about No Hands. How can they do that?
Well, Just Hands, not No Hands. No Hands would be funny, because that'd be, sorry. You know, no hands or feet. How are we moving?
Just Hands.
Just Hands. So go to justhands.org. You know, we have people flying in from actually globally that fly in to do our thing. But more importantly, if you sign up, that helps us understand where people are. We are going to be putting a car out in California. We are going to be putting one in Texas. We are going to be putting one in Florida. So the more we know where people are, we'll bring the cars out there, and we'll set up camp, if you will, to make sure that people can drive. So go to justhands.org and sign up, and yeah, that's how you can get in touch with us.
Awesome. Torsten Gross for Just Hands. Before I let you, I wanted to go back to one thing. I knew you and I would hit it off real good, but when you said you're 6'5", I was like, that's why we hit it off, because I'm 6'6". So we quads, 6'6", 6'5". Bro,
you're just trying to make me look bad that you're an inch taller, man. Like, that's one of the, you just needed to say it so that'd be like, listen, shorty, check yourself. I'm an inch taller than you. I get it. I would do the same thing. I would do it.
Yeah, just a little bit. Before I let you go, my friend, anything else you'd like to share with the audience, with ones who will be attending the Expo in New York? The floor is yours.
No, I think, look, I'm thankful for Abilities Expo to give me the platform to spread this. I think, the more we take advantage of expos like these and really show that there's a need and a want for this, because our community is very scattered without things like Abilities Expo. It's hard to find the latest of the latest. And so I'm thankful for that. I hope that vendors, providers all want to go to this. That's why we bring Just Hands there. And, I hope everybody comes and stops by and says hello.
Awesome. Well, Torsten, I'm looking forward to seeing you face to face.
Likewise.
Hopefully here in California, or if they fly me out there, be a good chance to see you and say hello, and really appreciate what you do. Appreciate just your voice in our community, and keep on doing what you're doing. And once the show drops on a streaming platform, I'm gonna have to have you on my entertainment show that I do. We can talk about that show even more.
I would love to. I'd be honored to do that.
All right, bro. Stay well and wheels up.
Sounds good, man. Take care.
A huge shout out to my man, Torsten Gross, doing some big things with just hands. Yeah, I made a mistake in there. I said no hands. He was like a real cool guy about it. We think about hands free and everything, but yeah. But don't forget, check out Torsten at the Abilities Expo in Edison, New Jersey. Go to our website and register right now. You will not be disappointed. Well, it's time for me to make like a tree and get out of here. But until next time, folks, do me a favor, stay healthy, stay safe. And remember, I love y'all to life and wheels up.
It ain't no stopping when I'm reaching for the top, and I know it ain't no looking back, I'm only looking forward. My goals and my goals don't define who you know, and I'm fine, I'll be fine, I just want you to know. It ain't no stopping when I'm reaching for the top, and I know it ain't no looking back, I'm only looking forward. My goals and my goals don't define who you know, and I'm fine, I'll be fine, I just want you to know. Inspiration, let it guide you and motivate, and we can all move forward and progress just like a motorcade. It ain't no stopping when I'm reaching for the top, and I know it ain't no looking back, I'm only looking forward. My goals and my goals don't define who you know, and I'm fine, I'll be fine, I just want you to know. It ain't no